Right, welcome back to the Public for Sure. This morning our conversation is based on marketing and branding Kenya and changing the narrative basically of Kenya and how the world, Africa views Kenya and even how Kenyans view Kenya. And we are privileged to be hosting Chris Diaz. He is, he has a lot of titles, but all of them converge into one. He's the marketing director of Kenya Airways. He's also a trustee in the Brand Africa, and he's also a director in the Brand Kenya board. So, Chris, welcome, and remember you can talk to us if you have any questions. The SMS number is 22422. That is 22422, and the hashtag to use is for breakfast. His handle is at Diaz Africa, and that's TV Kenya. As always, let's get the conversation going. So, of course, the first question would be: how is Kenya doing in terms of? We've had a lot happening for us. How is it doing now in terms of as an attraction?
Willis, thank you very much. Kenya is doing very well in the global market, and we see this really from being very competitive. Right. If you look from the tourism industry today, Kenya is showing very strong signs of recovery. Especially if you look at the World Bank reports coming into Africa, nearly 60 million tourists per annum.
Just in Africa.
Yeah, so the opportunities of tourists coming into the region is tremendous. Right. Kenya has great destinations, as you know. It's very competitive, and one indicator that shows Kenya's investments coming here is the investments by Radisson Blu, Stinsky, iTunes is coming in, Marriott is coming in. A lot of the big brands are investing in Kenya, and that shows the confidence in the tourism level, and also that the attractions, it goes beyond the beach, the bush. It goes into the brand experience of Kenya and the great diversity, and also the great hospitality of the people of Kenya. If you look at other competitiveness of Kenya, is also a lot of multinationals investing in Kenya. A lot of the Kenyan brands are doing very well. Safaricom, M-Pesa are very popular in the region and very successful. So all these are really showing great signs of Kenya and making branding Kenya and branding Africa very successsul.
It's successful. Of course, there's some challenges. What are some of the challenges that maybe you face when you're out there and you're trying to brand Kenya and invite people over?
Well, the challenges in any segment, in any business, are part of the journey of development and growing. Challenges, I would say, for Kenya is really for us to bring more cohesion, more teamwork. Especially, Kenyans are very proud. We have great pride in us about our sports, about our wildlife. So I think the most important opportunity for branding in Kenya, instead of talking about challenges, is for us as Kenyans to be brand ambassadors and to cut out negative energy and speak more positively, so that we're able to position Kenya globally. The other challenges that we are facing branding Kenya is building partnerships. We need to build very strong partnerships with tourism boards across the world, Kenya Tourism Board and other boards across the world. We need also to be very strong also with working together with development partners. Again, the other challenge that we face is also for I think, and I would not say that in terms of funds, but in terms of resources. Great marketing experts need to come together, and also we need to bring the private sector to work together with the government.
So, of course, as you can see, there are some of the pictures of or clips of what's happening in terms of branding Kenya and all this. Of course, like you said in the beginning, people know Kenya for like we saw elephants, we see the Maasais and everything, but then there's also the other things that we do in terms of like you said, the Radisson Blues and all this.
There's also culture.
There's culture, yes.
There's sports. Yes. There's fashion. Kenya is also very popular for music. So there's a lot of opportunities.
So how, apart from the tourism, and I mean in terms of Masai Mara and everything, what else in terms are people, would you say, in your experience, now more attracted to? Like you say, we have the Radisson Blues, we have all these people. Economically, are we seeing more? And what are the challenges there as well, like you said, in forming the partnerships?
Well, if you look at the FDI, the foreign investment coming into Africa, in 2014 we reached a maximum high. 2015 we had about $128 billion coming into Africa. East Africa and Kenya was showing as number 2 in terms of investments coming into the region. So these economic indicators actually make branding of Kenya very, very easy. We have a stable and strong government. We have Kenya is globally seen as a very peaceful nation. Actually, is a rising star. Is a modern community, a modern citizenship. We really admired by many countries. From Africa today, Kenya is really positioned as a strong nation, and naturally, I think the future of Kenya, the future of Africa, is showing that we will have a great one Kenya, one nation, and the opportunities are in exports. Kenya has great exports, coffee, tea. The other opportunities are also in marketing our country, tourism. Tourism, a lot of numbers are beginning to go up, and now we have a new CS, is very enthusiastic. So I see a lot of recovery, a lot of actions into positioning Kenya globally, and also in brand Kenya. Brand Kenya is now taking a very strong role in positioning Kenya as a global brand. And once Kenya is seen and people are aware of Kenya, and we begin to see Kenya as an opportunity or area where the investments the return on investments can be high, a lot of international brands will be further growing in Kenya.
All right, and so let's talk about, like, you're also in charge of the brand African, so talk about Africa, the perception that people have of Africa out there, and is it changing? Is the African narrative changing, and what should we maybe expect?
Well, that's a very strategic question. I like that. Africa has a lot of opportunities and a lot of challenges. So perception out there in Africa is a lot around the political stability, about security. One of the biggest challenges that we are facing as Africa is security. Without security, this can affect all our industries. So positioning the country, positioning the continent is very, very important. So as Brand Africa, it is a Pan-Africa body that is positively positioning all the countries, our culture. We are celebrating our culture, our diversity, and also we are making Africa more competitive. So we are building big partnerships with the foreign embassies, with the international organizations. We're also recognizing and rewarding brands. There are very big brands coming into Africa, and existing brands that are doing very, very well. MTN, Safaricom, talk about Kenya Airways, talking a lot of brands, pride of Africa, and connecting Africa to the world. So the future of Brand Africa is very promising and is very exciting.
One of the things is that people, like you said, how like Kenyans also need to be the brand Kenya ambassadors. Like each Kenyan needs to sell Kenya for themselves. And what about, like, Africans also are known to always sometimes really be, the big thing is go to other countries for holiday and stuff. What about regional tourism, for example, in relation to Kenya? How's that doing?
That's a good question, and I think if you look, Ugandans coming into Kenya, over 60,000 came to Kenya last year. So the opportunities for regional tourism continues to be very exciting. If you look at the seasons of tourism, and during the high season we get a lot of international tourists, and then during the low season, the domestic tourism, especially Kenyans themselves, the UN, the expatriates, and across our neighbors, Tanzanians, they all come into Kenya, and this actually gives us the revenues to support the GDP and also to sustain the hotels during the low season.
So that helps us as well. Now, one of the biggest things, of course, is sports. Most people know Kenya. So Kenya, of course, rugby, and athletes are doing pretty well. So there's a lot of hockey teams and all are doing pretty well as well. How are we maximizing that aspect as well?
Well, that's a very powerful point, because one of the big sub-brands of the Kenyan nation brand is sports. As you know, our athletes are gold medalists and very famous and well known. So the opportunities for sports and marketing of sports is the fastest growing, is billions of dollars in terms of sports tourism. Kenya today, if you look at the rugby team, and I'm sure you're a big fan of the rugby team, they're going for the Olympics, the men and and the women are going for the Olympics for the first time. I'm sure Kenya is going to win the gold medal. And the other opportunities are also, they are great brand ambassadors.
Right.
When these players are out there, millions and millions of people globally are watching Kenya and seeing the success and the talent, and we are promoting talent.
Yes.
The other opportunity of how we brand Kenya is look at the women's sports. We have fantastic women leaders. The Kenya hockey team is just Africa champions, club champions. The under-21 team is going out to Namibia. I was talking to the sports minister and saying we got to push the youth and the under-15 sports teams.
Right.
So we have to develop the youth, and we have to focus on positioning sports and using being famous in sports to market Kenya and market Africa.
But also in the same line with sports, the attitude of brands, like I mean, whenever you're watching, let's say the English Premier League, for example, there are a lot of, you see they have a lot of support from the international recognized brands. What about some of the brands in Kenya that are supporting? So do you need to see more of that in terms of support? Because we host a number of them here normally on Mondays when they talk about sports, and they always say we need more corporates to come in to support us. We need them to believe in us enough to get us out there, because one of the major problems is resources. Let's call it resources, because you used to
well, it's a brilliant point, because again, it's very important that there has to be integrity and good governance in the sports organizations. Right. If you look at the partnerships we're working with Kenya Rugby, they have positioned themselves very strongly in the world, because we started developing them from the under-15s, taking them internationally where they got great international exposure, and then coming and playing intra-Africa that builds a lot of skills. Again, we had very strong coaches for nutrition, for strength training, for technical training. So the whole sports organization for sponsorships to invest, we need to see a very clear strategy. And you see coming together as sponsors, as KQ or as Safaricom or as Tusker or as Equity, all the big brands really are coming into sports development. And there are two things once happening. You're increasing your brand visibility as a corporate, but you're also promoting women development in terms of sports and also youth development. So mine is to encourage the sports organizations to talk to us. Branding Kenya and branding Africa is coming up very strongly, and I think we are be able to promote our products, goods and services, embracing sports and the spirit of sports, and bringing one Kenya, one Africa.
And talking about the support, like you're getting, for example, or Kenya is getting a lot from the different ministries working together, tourism, like this one now, for example, when you talk about sports, we'll have this, of course, the sports ministry will be involved, the tourism ministry will be involved. They want to take the opportunity to brand Kenya out there, and also the sports and culture ministry will be involved, for example, and the foreign affairs also will be involved, of course. So if we marry all this, how important is it to have that backing? Because like you said, sometimes people don't want to come into a place because they think, okay, there is like peace or no insecurity, no interagency synergy, and stuff like that.
Great question. So Willis, the Export Promotion Council, Kenya Invest, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we all work together, and to position Kenya into bring attraction of investors into Kenya is very strategic. It's a long-term strategy. And also, for example, tourism. There's a lot of investments coming into tourism. You can see also there have to be incentives. Incentives are very, very important. Right now, you can see there's an incentive on improving the quality of the tourism facilities. We just don't need to have great intra-connectivity in terms of aviation. We don't need to have people coming into Kenya. People want to enjoy the brand experience. They want to go and talk about the brand story, about how great their holiday was or how great was their conference in Kenya, and they went for the weekend on holiday to the Masai Mara or to Amboseli. So the quality of the brand experience is crucial and critical in the development of branding and bringing investors into Kenya, because one of the great brand ambassadors or communications of how you give testimonials about your visit to Kenya, you go out back to your countries and you talk about Kenya, and that is very powerful. Great brand personalities coming to Kenya, be it Richard Branson, be it the Pope, be it President Obama. Those are very powerful messaging to the world today how great Kenya is. It's safe, it's a great place to be, and also the people are very friendly. So there is also the opportunities of the youth. We have very good in terms of employment. We have very good people who speak great English, who have got entrepreneurship skills. So they're looking for people who can work in the organizations when they invest in Kenya, especially big brands.
So if there's somebody sitting at home and they're wondering, how do I plug in? How do I, Chris, how do I get part of this whole branding Kenya experience? What is my responsibility? What would you tell them?
Well, what's most important is Africa is the future.
Right.
Buy Kenya, build Kenya, brand Africa. So one thing what is most important is the manufacturing and the suppliers of products in Kenya are very focused on high quality. By giving high quality, that means there's a greater satisfaction by the consumers, and the middle class is growing very fast. So they really appreciate Kenyan products. If you see Tusker, if you see some of the Bidco products, you see some of the Chandaria products, you see a lot of the Kenyan products. Services products like Equity Bank are really giving great opportunity and services. So to plug in, the consumers really need to support Kenya brands and be involved in the county branding, in the county marketing of the country, and also using social media. Right. You have a great social media following. Citizen now I think is over 1 million followers. That's great. So if we all combine on the social media and we have a powerful digital communication, and the future of marketing is going to be digital marketing. So a lot of the youth should plug in, talk great about Kenya, and also come and see us in Brand Kenya, in Kenya Tourism Board, in the Kenya Invest Board, and we work together, experience how the marketing is being done, and be great ambassadors of Kenya.
All right, so that is also the what you talk about, the digital marketing as well. So what can we expect? What are some of the big events or things that we can look out for and we can immediately plug into or even start making noise about?
Well, first and foremost, Kenya is going to be hosting the World Youth Championships 2017. For the first time in 2016, we are going to see the Tokyo International Conference coming to Kenya. It's a huge conference. It brings the Japanese investors to look at Kenya and Africa. There are a lot of international conferences coming to Kenya, and you can see WTO in December, African Travel in November. So all these big conferences are really positioning Kenya well, and I think Kenya has great opportunity in conference tourism in the MICE segment. Again, there's a lot of sports events coming into Kenya. I mean, Safari Sevens, rugby, a lot of the sporting events are bringing us together. Again, if you look at, we have the elections coming up, so at this particular time, Brand Kenya has a very big role. One Kenya, you know, inspiring the Kenyans to be together and also to market Kenya. If you look generally in Africa, just before the general elections, there is always a slow in growth because people are watching on the stability and the future of the country. If we build a great momentum in branding the country and bringing cohesion and making us all position Kenya as a great global nation, this is very important. Again, if you look at Wall Street Journal analysis of the best country brands in the world, Kenya is now 19 in Africa. We have opportunity of moving even to the top 10 very quickly, and the methodology of evaluating brands and country brands is around good government, stability, economic growth, people, citizen engagement, exports, tourism. So all these arms of marketing of body really need to really position Kenya strongly so that we can move into a much stronger and higher and better country branding index.
What about, of course, a question like that, you talked about good governance and leadership and all. Yes, maybe even the message you have to them, because, I mean, they're the ones, Kenyans consume a lot of news, and that's even Kenyans in the diaspora, for example. That's one of the things they're always looking out for. What are the politicians saying back home and everything? Is there need for them? There is a need for them to do that, but maybe talk to them about the same, the political class, like the things they say, the government, the things they do as well to picture. They help create the Brand Kenya experience, right?
Yes, that's true. That's very powerful. if I got your question correct, is that how we should position our communications from the leaders, from the media, from the brand ambassadors. Each one of us as Kenyan brand ambassadors is very powerful. The more negative going out into the market globally, on the internet everyone can read, then people get worried about Kenya, and investors also get concerned about Kenya. Perceptions change, so it's very important how we communicate. And now I know we are investing a lot of funds into marketing Kenya, repositioning Kenya, so we need to have everyone involved, and it is very, very important. The diaspora are supporting us. We do a lot of marketing. We have the database of the diaspora in Dubai. We have thousands, hundreds of thousands in the US, in Washington, in New York, in London, in South Africa. So the diaspora are really proud of Kenya. They love coming back to see mom and dad and the family in Kenya. So it is important that when we communicate and the diaspora out there, we engage with them. We have events with them to celebrate our big diversity and occasions in Kenya. If it is Jamhuri Day, Madaraka Day. So these diaspora community need to be reinforced with the leaders of Kenya, communicating very strongly about the greater things and the greatness of the people of Kenya.
Right. So of course, thanks so much. Of course, this is a conversation that we always will continue to have, and of course, you can continue engaging. Chris is handles at Diaz Chris Africa on Twitter. You can go ahead and keep talking. Let's keep talking about branding Kenya, because it's one thing that we continue to do. We want to say a big thank you to Chris Diaz for coming today and talking about branding Kenya and all the opportunities that are there. Remember, we need to be more ambassadors of Kenya. Now we want to cross over to later on, of course, to Alex Kubasu, but we'll leave you with some photos now of brand Kenya. Instrument. Nicheze.
The Kericho and Malindi by-elections are taking place on Monday, and we have already set out our teams and they're on location, and want to join Alex Kubasu, who is all the way in Malindi, to give us an update of what's going on. A very good morning to you, Alex. Maybe we can start with just an update of how the week has been that side before we go further in.
Thank you very much, Kerigo. We are live from Malindi constituency here in town, and the political temperatures at an all-time high. The entire week, big shots have been here, both from the race that is shaping up to be a two-horse race between Jubilee.
Right, we apologize for that sound problem. We'll sort it out and then try and link up with him in a bit. For now, we hand you over to Daniel and his band.